Good morning. If you take your seat, we'll get this started. I want to welcome everybody to the 2023-2024 Indian River Delegation meeting. At this point in time, we're going to ask John Vecchiano to lead us in an invocation. All stand, please. And please remain standing for the pledge after.
Forgive me that my back's toward you. Would you bow your heads with me? Almighty God, you are our refuge and our strength. We appeal to you this morning, knowing and believing that you are our very present help in these current troubling times of our constitutional republic. I'm reminded of the wisdom of one of the greatest influences upon Western civilization, Marcus Tullius Cicero, where he said, "Power and the law are not synonymous. In truth, they are frequently in opposition and irreconcilable. There is God's law, from which all equitable laws of man emerge, and by which men must live if they are not to die in oppression, chaos, and despair. Divorced from God's eternal and immutable law, established before the founding of the sons, man's power is evil, no matter the noble words with which it is employed or the motives enforcing it. Men of good will, mindful, therefore, of the law laid down by God, will oppose governments whose rule is by men, and if they wish to survive as a nation, they will destroy that government which attempts to adjudicate by the whim or power of venal judges. Be thou present, O God of wisdom, this morning, and guide and direct our deliberations this day. Enable and empower us to bring to light our issues of concern so that we may establish the best and surest foundation for our great county. We know that with a firm reliance upon you, that we, the people of God, will be able to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. All this we ask in the name and through the merits of Jesus Christ, your Son and our Savior. Amen.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I think it's quite obvious that we do have a quorum here today. The two of us are here, so in the entire delegation. So go from there. At this time, I'm going to let Senator Grall go ahead and introduce herself and her staff to those that don't know or have not met her.
Thank you, Representative Brackett, and thank you all for being here today and participating in the Indian River County Delegation meeting. It's an honor and privilege to serve in the Florida Senate, District 29. This is the first of my 5 delegation meetings for this week. So I represent Indian River County, about 2/3 of St. Lucie County, and then all of Highlands, Glades, and Okeechobee counties as well. And so with me today, I have Sharon Stewart with my office, who is also with me in the House. And she is local and available to help with constituent issues, and she supports our office. Then I also have Micah Doster with me today. Micah is based in the Tallahassee office and is there with me during session and committee weeks and helps with many of the legislative matters that we have. We also have Marty Milkey. She is not here today, but she serves the western part of the district, so she's based in our Lake Placid office. And also we have somebody new that will be starting with our office this week. His name is Tyler Wadsworth, and he will be out of St. Lucie County and travel with me to and from Tallahassee during committee weeks and session. We're glad to have him, as Micah did have her hands full in Tallahassee last year as our only staff member up there. But again, thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Senator Grall. And again, my name is ROBBIE Brackett, represent the 34th District, which is primarily Indian River County and part of Brevard. I would fortunately only have 2 delegation meetings that I have to attend, unlike Erin, who has multiple meetings. When you look at my staff, to my left here is Sonny Agarwal. He is my legislative aide. He works this area and also in Tallahassee with me. A lot of you have met Sonny or talked to him at some point in time. He has a lot of communication with the public and He's always keeping busy with that and keeping me apprised of what's going on. In addition to that, I have Susan Aguirre here in the back of the room, who was in the lobby most of the time, and anybody who's called the office has spoken to Susan. And again, she's very helpful and can either solve the problem or get it to us as quickly as possible. Few housekeeping items today. We're going to have we have time limits for each category here, and so we'll be abiding by the time. We have about 40+ speakers that want to speak, so we're trying to keep this thing moving right along. If you're a member of the public, a constituent, and you have not called in and put your name on the agenda, there are cards in the back of the room you may fill out, or Susan has them over here, and we'll go from there and get those cards and put you on the agenda from that standpoint. With that, I want to recognize a few people that are here in the room today that are also a part of the elected officials in this community. First, I've got John Coutinho, the mayor of the city of Vero Beach, over here. I've got County Clerk Ryan Butler, New York County Clerk of Courts over here. Ed Dodd from the city of Sebastian, Councilmember Ed Dodd. I've got Chairman Joe Ehrman, New York County Commission, somewhere in the room. Dr. Gene Posca from the school board is here. Darrell Lohr from New York County Commissioner. Darrell Lohr is here in the room, back in the back over here. City Council Member John Carroll from the city of Vero. And school board member Terry Barenborg, I believe I saw over here, and I think I have everybody. Who? Peggy Jones, school board chairman. Sorry, your name's even on my list, and I walked right over it, Peggy. I'm sorry. With that, is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Let's get started here with the governmental platforms. Again, we have a time frame of 5 minutes. There will be a timer going. You will hear it go off. Please wrap up at that point in time so that we can keep this thing moving. First up is in River County Administrator John Tkanich. I know I got that wrong, John, but I apologize, but I've tried and tried. You're only in this for 5 months so far, so give me a few more months and I'll get it.
You did an amazing job. You should hear the way some people do it. And I've shared this before, my poor wife went from Davis to Tkanich. The poor kid, she was a community resource police officer. Well, I want to say good morning, Senator Grall, Representative Brackett, members of Indian River County, residents, business owners, leaders. I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear here today to briefly outline some issues important to the Board of County Commissioners. I think the first one will come as no surprise. It's home rule. Obviously, we are concerned with the need to maintain home rule. We would like to see a defense against unfunded mandates and the one-size-fits-all preemption bills. Be mindful of the fact that we have 67 counties, and I think there's 414 municipalities in our state. What may work up in the Panhandle or up in Northeast Florida or in South Florida may not work here in Indian River County, so we just ask you to be mindful that we're all different and unique, and that's what brings a lot of people here to Indian River County, because we are unique and special. The next issue I really want to touch on, and just briefly, because we do understand the intent and the purpose behind the Live Local Act, Senate Bill 102, because, obviously housing affordability for our residents, for our families, for even workers that work in local government or work in the service industry is very difficult to attain here in Indian River County. But we are concerned with the provision where affordable housing is permitted by right in an industrial area. And that we're concerned about the compatibility issue. And then the larger concerns is we're in the process of evaluating our comprehensive plan. We plan on updating it. We also are going to be looking at the urban services boundary. And then we're doing an economic development plan to try to chart a future for the course, of Indian River, and with the intent of diversifying our local economy to be able to expand existing companies, attract companies that would bring high-wage, value-added jobs. And when you look at the compatibility of industrial zoning and residential zoning in close proximity or neighboring, it really presents some issues. So if that issue comes up, we would just want you to know that that's our biggest concern is the compatibility with we get the commercial, but the compatibility with industrial right next to it kind of flips the predicate of why zoning was created to protect, residential uses from industrial uses. I would also like to touch on an item, and I know I had the opportunity to speak with at least one member, and I appreciate our time, Senator Grall, but the House Bill 1379, the septic tank upgrades, And we understand the intent and the need for the legislation, but we would be remiss not to share the county's concerns from both the public and private side, especially as it associates with the mandatory requirements outlined in the law. The most concerning provision is the July 1st, 2030 deadline for all residential lots to either to replace their existing septic tanks or to connect to a central sewer system. There are two courses of action. Well, first I should say there's approximately 30,000 septic systems in Indian River County. That is concerning, and I will tell you that the county is currently undergoing, or at least we funded for this year, an integrated utilities master plan, so we can start planning that. But that takes a lot of time when you think about project design, engineering, permitting. That's 20 months in of itself. So when you look at that time frame and then developing the construction documents, 6-7 years may be very difficult. And then for those that cannot, because we just can't extend sewer there, you're talking about a $15,000 upgrade, and they could have just got their permit prior to the deadline, and now 7 years later, they paid $7,000, and in today's cost, they're gonna have to pay $15,000. We just think there needs to be a little bit of thought in that. And the last item I'll bring on this topic is we've heard that there's conversations with FDEP, because the one thing the bill doesn't talk about is who's gonna enforce this. So we've heard there's been conversations with FDEP, they're gonna start in the Panhandle, work their way down, and have conversations with all the counties. The only thing I would ask you is that if that happens, it needs to be revenue neutral. The county should be able to establish a fee schedule that bears the cost of to manage that program, because it would be fundamentally unfair for those that are connected to sanitary sewer to then have to subsidize through general tax revenue to pay for a program for which they receive no benefit. So we would just want to make sure that those programs, if that happens, because we understand if everybody doesn't agree, and I think there's 6 regional offices for FDEP, it's going to be difficult for FDEP to process, to plan, review the plans, inspect, and then get out there. So, I mean, it's just kind of something that we're concerned about. If that happens, we would ask you to keep us in mind that there is a cost that could be associated with it, and it would be unfair for those that are on sewer. A couple other items, homeowners insurance. I know you know the issue with that, so I'll just wrap that up. And I've also had the opportunity to speak to you previously about the opportunity if a member is a member of a governing body is on official business, they're out of the county, they would be allowed to, if there's physical quorum, to participate in the meeting. And the reason why I share that, because there is a provision in one of the AGOs that says if a member's unable to attend due to illness, they are able to. So if they're on official business, put some guardrails on it, limit the number of times that can happen. And with that, I'll relinquish the time, and I want to thank you, and I appreciate the time you've given us on the phone as well as your staff, and we appreciate all your leadership in the community, and we look forward to working with you during this session.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Indian River State College, Dr. Moore.
President Brackett, Senator Grall, thank you for your leadership, thank you for your support for this past session. Members of the public here and elected leaders, thank you for being here. I'd like to recognize I've got campus presidents Terry Graham from here in Indian River County, as well as Andy Treadwell from St. Lucie County, and I have one of my board of trustees there, Milo Thornton, in the back of the room. I'm being watched very closely, as you can imagine today, monitor what I say. I will be brief. My younger brother, David Moore, will be speaking to you in just a few moments, and Mom always liked him better, and therefore I have to cede the limelight to him, otherwise he cries at Christmas. It gets really ugly. Representative and Senator, we're very thankful for the support you gave us last year in the session for the $100 million went to the Florida college system. That was very instrumental. As you know, our costs are escalating as we go forward, utility costs, liability costs, and so forth. Our number one thrust this legislative session is going to be health care for our employees. As you know, the SUS enjoys a benefit that the FCS does not. The SUS is very much similar to state employees, and they have a very controlled, contained cost for health care plans. As I think I've indicated to both of you recently, we've spent a lot of time recruiting new talent to come to our Treasure Coast Okeechobee district. Unfortunately, we lose those individuals because of our healthcare costs per individual. Just to give you an idea, for a family of 4, you're looking at $1,450 a month for healthcare plans under the FCS endorsed plan. We're attacking that aggressively, but our costs go up, and our costs are going on to the employees, and that's just unacceptable in my opinion, sir and ma'am. We also have a couple of capital projects that we're going forward with, and we ask for your continued support in those areas, the N building, the science building, as well as deferred maintenance on our campuses. I cannot emphasize this enough. We're making a dedicated thrust in human health sciences. Senator and Representative, you both saw that we had opened up our new expansion of our nursing program. We're going to add on to that with human health sciences with a medical college coming in through a P3 arrangement. And these facilities are going to be instrumental to us as we handle a larger influx of students coming to our college. And lastly, I'll close out this way. Our enrollment is up back-to-back record years of enrollment during our Promise program. We're going out, as you both well know, with tuition-free educational augmentation for any member who graduates high school within our service district with a 2.0 GPA, regardless of family income. We believe that this is a right that they have. We're doing this through philanthropy, not through waivers. This is brought through our foundation strength, and we're very excited to do that. And because of that, we're watching record numbers of students come to our college and take flight and achieve their God-given full potential. Again, I want to close out by saying thank you both for your leadership, your availability, the support of your team members and your staff. We would not be able to do the things we're able to do at our college without your leadership both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. David, I gave you your time, brother.
Okay, Florida Atlantic University will be next up. Kara Perry, Associate Vice President.
I am not, if you could not tell, morning Representative and Senator. My name is Ryan Britton. I am not Kara Perry from Florida Atlantic University. I apologize and send Kara's apologies as well, but I'm joined by Camilla Michalczyk, our Director of State Relations, and very happy to share some good news about the university today and also talk about our legislative priorities coming up in the upcoming session. And so a couple of wonderful things about the university that have just come out recently. We recently received our ranking in U.S. News and World Report. We're 112th among all public universities. We've made the largest gain of all Florida's SUS schools over the last 2 years, and we're very excited to be receiving that national recognition. We also continue to see our Pell Grant students achieve record graduation rates, and we were recently awarded number 26 ranking for social mobility among both public and private universities, which speaks to our ability to transform the lives of our students through education. Our military and veterans are an incredibly important part of our campus culture. For 12 years in a row, we have been recognized as a military-friendly school for providing exceptional resources, services, and programs to students. And as you may know, we are making remarkable strides in athletics as well. Most recently, our big Final Four run, which we were very excited to see. And so our students are doing well both in the classroom and outside of it, and we're incredibly appreciative of that. Like my colleague at Indian River State College, we are also focused on healthcare, and we'll be looking at healthcare as we received a tremendous amount of support from you all last year as it relates to healthcare. We'll be doing that again this year, and we thank you so much. And look to create pipelines both from the K through 12 system, the college system. We've just taken our largest class in the university's history, 4,500 students, into our freshman class, and so helping those students find pathways into the marketplace, graduate successfully. And so last year we received a tremendous amount of support from the legislature to start the state's second publicly funded College of Dentistry. We're incredibly proud of that. It is a multi-year endeavor that we will continue to seek funding to continue that effort. We also received support from you both $4 million in change as well as $5 million for both our College of Nursing and our College of Medicine, respectively. And that's to help us double our number of nurses that we're producing in our College of Medicine, as well as double our number of physicians. We had one of the smallest colleges of medicine in the state of Florida, only 64 students per class. But we're looking to grow that up to 80 this year and then on its way to doubling the College of Medicine class as well. And so, again, understanding the healthcare needs of this state, understanding the growing population needs, we look forward to working with that, and as well as establishing the second College of Dentistry, which will ultimately grow to educate 90 dentists per year. And grow to an enrollment of 360. And so we cannot thank you enough. The legislature has made tremendous investments into higher education. And again, like my colleague at Indian River State College, we tremendously appreciate that investment, and we're looking to do good things with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go down to the School District of Indian River County. Dr. David Moore, Superintendent.
Thank my older brother for an extra few minutes. On behalf of the school board, it is an honor to stand before you and present our just approved legislative priorities. And I want to begin by thanking each of you for your unwavering support on behalf of the children in this community. We are one district that's actually in a better academic place today than we were before the pandemic. There's only 4 districts in the state of Florida that can say that. For the first time in the history of our county, our school system outperformed the state in every academic area that is being assessed, which we are proud of. We're number 7 in 3rd grade reading. In 18-19, we were 31. So you're seeing significant improvements. 1 of 4 districts been able to maintain a graduation rate of 95%. So we're graduating more students and send them to my older brother to be educated beyond post-secondary. I want to personally thank you for your advocacy. Because of your hard work in Tallahassee, our community is going to have the benefit of completing phase 1 of the Jimmy Graves Community and Sports Complex. The fences are up, the ground is being broken, and thank you for advocating an additional $3.4 million to get that project done, so thank you. In terms of our legislative priorities, it always begins with funding. ESSER is sunsetting this year, so significant burden on educating our public children. Maximum flexibility with our FEFP increases to our student-based allocation allows us the flexibility to meet the unique needs of our students here locally in our community. Continuing to look at appropriately funding transportation. The amount of money we take away from kids in the classroom to transport our students is drastic. We need to continue to advocate for additional funding for transportation. Flexible funding for extended school day and school year. Our board has made it clear to me that's something they want to explore with additional funding as it relates to extended day and extended school year. We believe we can maximize outcomes for children. Increased funding for maintaining playgrounds and athletic facilities. We are one community that has never wavered away from not providing extracurricular activities and sports teams for our students. And as you travel to your different districts that you represent, you will not find the level of extracurricular activities and sports that you find here in Indian River County. That comes at a cost, and we want to increase funding for that. And then increasing funding to eliminate, or advancing funding to eliminate a TAN, tax anticipated notice. We are one of a few districts that takes money to fund a TAN. We need to advocate to ensure that we can get that funding from the state a little bit early so we do not have to have those additional costs for our students. Safety is always going to be a concern for our school system. We want to increase the school safety funding by at least $100 million across the state. We want to have the latest technology and the best resources for our students. In the time we are in our nation, things cost a lot more than they used to. In order to provide those metal detectors, those safety security systems, we need additional funding in order to do so. We'd like to expand VPK programs beyond or moving down to 3-year-olds. The quicker we can provide resources and support for our children, we think that would be an absolutely outstanding program. Going back to safety and security, and it was mentioned before, home rule, we want to ensure that vaping pens and vaping materials both online and in stores, if we are able to reinstate home rule authority, we can be able to allow our local authorities to take care of that and have the appropriate consequences in our schools and in our community. And then recruitment and retention. We need to look at our recent retirees, maximum flexibility to allow them to return to the classrooms as quickly as possible would be an absolutely outstanding practice. The state, both in law and the Department of Education have done outstanding things to recruit teachers, but there's some flexibility in terms of retaining teachers and allowing teachers to return after they retire would be absolutely outstanding. Establishing a universal fingerprinting system to expedite the process would be something that we would advocate, as well as putting requirements on the Department of Education in terms of getting teachers certified. We are currently waiting on certifications from teachers who entered their certification July 12th. These are individuals who are ready for certification, ready to teach our children, and we're pending certification for them. So saying, hey, you have 30 days to get everyone cleared so we can have teachers in classroom would be absolutely outstanding for us. Those are our updates. Thank you very much.
Dr. Moore, thank you for your presentation. I would be remiss, though, if I did not thank Senator Mayfield and her leadership on the funding, on getting the funding for the sports field. It was, she's long represented this community. It was an important project to her, and she did yeoman's work in order to make that happen. And so I just want to make sure that we thank her here, even though she's not necessarily part of this delegation anymore. So everybody here should know that, and hopefully the next time you see her, you are able to thank her for that funding as well.
Absolutely. She's bringing a big old check to our next board meeting for us.
Thank you, thank you. And if you have any of those in writing, I know it's recent, if you don't mind getting those to us, I would appreciate it, because there are a number of things on your list that we've been working on.
And I didn't share them all. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Grall. Okay, next up, we have the City of Sebastian. Brian Benton, the City Manager.
Good morning, Senator Grall, Representative Brackett. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak today. As you all are aware, one of the main priorities within the City of Sebastian is water management, and we would support legislation that provides recurring source of funding for local government programs and projects that protect our water resources, improves water quality, mitigates pollution and stormwater runoff, and expands the use of alternative water resources. Also on that, we would look at initiatives to boost funding for flood mitigation and stormwater management. Also in regards to, as the county administrator spoke about earlier, House Bill 1379, the city does understand that requirement, once we get to July 1st of 2030, would require in the nature of 11,000 to 12,000 homeowners within the City of Sebastian to convert their septic tanks over to the increased nutrient reduction system. What we would ask is that, discussion to be had in regards from the state level, that if the local municipalities, counties, the storm sewer utility agencies have plans to do those upgrades within the near future, and we are working closely with Indian River County on that there be a little bit of leniency in regards to that mandate of the July 1st, 2030 conversion date to protect our homeowners and hopefully reduce some of those expenditures for our homeowners. As the county administrator had spoken, we're looking in the range for those units in the range of $14,000 to $15,000 for those upgrades to their septic tanks. Building off of that a little bit, the city and county are working close together as well with septic to sewer. We have quite a number of homes and properties along the Indian River Lagoon in our CRA district that we could eliminate approximately or a little bit over 10,000 pounds of nitrogen from entering our waterways and the environment along the lagoon if we could complete the septic to sewer conversion in that area. So one of the things that the city is going to be looking forward to is looking for some additional funding to help fund our connections from homeowners to the county's sewer program. A couple other things, the city does oppose any legislation that would increase our statutory limits on liability for claims against the state and its agencies and subdivisions, which includes the cities. We feel as though that would weigh a heavy burden on our taxpayers and our residents if those limits were increased. We support legislation for funding of Florida's affordable housing programs that are targeted to meet the needs of workforce housing. It's vital that state and local governments continue to work together to create and sustain an equitable system that offers all Floridians the ability to live in a safe and healthy neighborhood, close to good jobs, good schools, and other essentials at a price that meets the unique housing needs of each of our residents. One of the things that we're working forward to in the next few years is we're going to be looking at some legislative appropriations in regards, and one of our key areas is funding opportunities for expansion and improvements to the city's Stan Mayfield working waterfront area. That area, it plays an important role in the city of Sebastian. It provides our commercial fishermen that are being pushed out of other areas and other marinas in the area, whether they're private or public, and we're looking to expand that so that they have easy access to the Sebastian Inlet, and it gives them a great place to come offload their fish, and we provide educational opportunities in that working waterfront area as well. The city does, as has been mentioned before, we do oppose any legislation that is not funded or requires a local government to fund through ad valorem taxes or assessments, otherwise known as unfunded mandates. We ask that you all consider that as we continue to go forward. And the last thing that I have is just let you all know the city of Sebastian requests legislative recognition as we will be celebrating the city's 100th anniversary during the year of 2024. culminating with the large birthday celebration on December 8, 2024. And we would request any participation from you all as well as we go forward into 2024 to celebrate the city's centennial. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have the City of Vero Beach, and while they're walking up, I want to recognize a couple individuals who walked in the room since we started. Councilmember Ray Neville from the City of Vero Beach is here, and Councilmember Tracy Zudans is also here from the City of Vero Beach. With that.
Representative Brackett, Senator Grall, thank you for your advocacy and availability to the City of Vero Beach in this past year and all your support with all our efforts. I'm going to speak to you about a legislative or an appropriation request, and then Matt Mitz is going to speak to you about a legislative, and John Turner the same. We echo the county's ask for assistance for home rule issues and look forward to that support going forward. But the first thing we have today is the city's been in the marina business for about 100 years. And in the mid-2000s, we purchased the old dry storage building from Lost Tree Village Corporation to keep it out of the hands of private developers and keep public access to the waterfront. We're embarking on a complete renovation of the marina, with phase 1 being the dry storage building and docks. We'll be increasing the dry storage stacks from 50 to 130 and the dock spaces from 20 to 30. The project is estimated at $9.5 million, with $1 million plus or minus from fine, $7.5 million from the city, and we're requesting $1 million from appropriation from the state. So we'll be able to keep that marina open and operational for the public's use and additional recreational activity for the waterfront. And I'll turn it over to Matt Mitz.
How you doing? Matthew Mitz, Public Works Director, City of Vero Beach. I'm speaking today in regards to the Indian River Lagoon, obviously an estuary of national significance that doesn't need to be iterated here. It generates $8 billion annually, according to a 2016 study, but it doesn't take into account the benefit it would provide if it was restored. That's clearly a goal of the state through recent legislation over the past few years, and we are thankful to the legislature for that continued funding and support. However, we're here to talk today about the Basin Management Action Program. This is the program from the FDEP that has assigned responsibility to individual stakeholders within the Treasure Coast and Indian River Lagoon watershed. The City of Vero Beach is currently the only municipality within Indian River County meeting that goal. So we are asking for the legislature to has assigned responsibility through the BMAP program, but has not assigned accountability. So we're asking for an amendment to section 403.161 of the Florida statutes to define prescribed fees if a stakeholder within the lagoon watershed fails to meet its requirements. Thank you.
Part of the tag team here. Good morning, Senator Grall, Representative Brackett. My name is John Turner. We're very appreciative of what you've done for the city, and your legislative staff have been very helpful, and we do appreciate it. I'm here to address an issue regarding the tourist development tax application process. Currently, the city, as well as other governmental agencies, is not allowed to file applications for tourist development tax grant funds under the county's existing policies. Now, these are funds that are requested under the state law for specific uses relating to parks and beach facilities, such as your lifeguard towers, things of those natures. But unlike most other counties in the state, in Indian River County, the city and other municipalities is prohibited from even applying for these grants, even though they're specifically authorized under state statute. So all we're doing is asking for fairness. We're not making a requirement that they have to approve it. It's just that the opportunity is given to municipalities to apply for these funds. And additionally, in Indian River County, the City of Vero Beach contributes over half of the discretionary funds collected on tourist development tax revenues. But yet, none of the money is reinvested in the City of Vero Beach for beach facilities, for uses that are permitted under the statute. The expenses are being covered for the local divisions for the advertising for tourism, things of that nature, which are recognized and appreciated. But the Chamber of Commerce's can't be funded solely by the city of Vero Beach, is our position. So we're asking that the amendment to the tourist development tax be adopted that would require a certain percentage of these funds be reinvested back in the district from which they originated. So we're asking for two things in the tourist development tax. One is the fairness to apply for the funds, as well as the requirement that a portion of these funds be reinvested back in the district. Thank you again for your time and attention to this matter.
Thank you. And next up, we have the newly appointed Indian River County Clerk of the Court, Ryan Butler. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you this morning. Just want to thank both of you for your support of a couple of bills that have greatly benefited not only the clerk's office here in this county, but across the state. First of all, it's House Bill 441. I believe that both of you sponsored that bill in your respective chambers. It may seem like a fairly technical amendment to the landlord-tenant law regarding unknown tenants in possession, but I can tell you that among the practitioners who handle these landlord-tenant cases, there was a great deal of confusion prior to your fix. And they are very, very happy that you have fixed the glitch in the statute and you made their lives a lot easier. And I know that throughout the state, the other clerks thank you as well for that. Secondly, House Bill 977. As you know, the clerk's court operations budget is not funded through tax revenue. We're funded through user fees, so filing fees, costs, and fines collected at the courthouse. And prior to 2005, those revenues that were generated locally stayed locally. After 2005, the money does not stay locally, and we actually end up subsidizing other clerks' offices throughout the state. That does cause some disparities from time to time, but because of your sponsorship of 977, you've allowed more of those local dollars to stay local, and that's certainly going to benefit the public here in Indian River County. And I know that from talking to my colleagues around the state, they're all very grateful that you've done the same thing for them as well and allowed more of those revenues to stay local. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Public Defender, the 19th Judicial Circuit, Diamond Liddy. I know she said she may be running a little late. Okay, we'll come back to her if we need to. And then number 9, Fellsmere Water Control District, Greg Nelson.
Good morning, Senator Grall. Good morning, Representative Brackett. I'm Greg Nelson, appearing here as a member of the Board of Supervisors for the Fellsmere Water Control District. And by the way, I'm glad that I got to speak before Diamond Liddy because she's a much more dynamic speaker than I am. She has a lot of energy. So I'm here today to speak on behalf of the district. The district intends to introduce legislation that would convert the district from a Chapter 298 drainage district to a Chapter 189 improvement district, also known now as a stewardship district. The district was designed in 1916 by Nelson Fell, who was an excellent engineer. He actually designed and built the Siberian Railroad, but when he came from New Zealand to this part of Florida, I don't think he fully appreciated how much rain we get when he designed the ditches, as well as the roads were obviously built for Model T at that time. So the infrastructure does need some improvement there. The purpose of the legislation would simply be to authorize the district. Right now it's restricted essentially to just cleaning the ditches, maintaining the drainage as it is, to be able to make improvements to roads and other future needs that may arise. The legislation itself would not increase taxes, and it is the intent of the district that no assessments would be made on any properties unless 2/3 of the owners within that unit of improvement approve of that. So we want to be frugal, and our taxes currently are the 4th lowest out of the 5 water districts or Chapter 189 districts that exist. There's 2 improvement districts, so prior drainage districts that have already converted to Chapter 189 improvement districts in this county. So that's it. Just want to let you know that's the nature of our bill that we'll be proposing as a special act. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this point in time, we're going to move on to local bills. So we have the town of Orchid. Sherry Stowe, the town manager. Good morning.
Hi, Senator Grall, Representative Brackett. Thank you for hearing us today regarding our request for a local bill for the town of Orchid. As you know, it is the smallest municipality in Indian River County. And in the past, we were indeed small enough to hold our meetings outside of the boundaries of the town of Orchid. There is a Florida law that allows towns and villages under a population of 500 to meet outside of the town within 5 miles. The town of Orchid has its town hall outside of the boundaries of the town because it is so small and so built out that there's simply no room for us. And there is no prospect in the near future that the town would be able to own a facility within its perimeters. We currently use the private facilities of the Orchid Island Golf and Beach Club, and that has worked very well for us, but their facilities are extremely popular. They house all sorts of clubs and activities, movie showings, and so government meetings are just not as exciting. And so we're looking to be able to hold our meetings outside of the boundaries of the town again, even though our population does now officially extend beyond the 500. So in the census of 2020, it went officially to 516, so just a little bit over that maximum. So the local bill that we are requesting would allow us to meet outside of the town within 5 miles as long as our population stays below 1,250 people, which it is expected to do. The town council has held meetings about this subject, and following a survey of the community where 82% of the population was found to be in favor of this bill, the town council adopted unanimously a resolution in favor of pursuit of the bill, and they're asking for your stewardship and guidance of this bill through the legislative process in the upcoming 2024 legislative session. And I do have with me for Sunny, Representative Baxter's legislative aid, our affidavit of publication, because we have completed an economic impact statement. We expect this to cost local funding about $1,500 in the first year and nothing further after that. And the funding would be to furnish the space for town council and local committee meetings. I'm not sure if there's any further information you need.
Just one comment to clarify. It's my understanding that on the local bill that you're asking for, that it doesn't change really what you're doing now at all. You now have meetings off-site when you have to because you're under the 500 threshold, so that we're just continuing on with the same procedure.
Almost, yes.
Okay.
We used to be able to have those meetings until 2020 census results came out, and then it turned out that we could not hold those meetings anymore, so we of course did curtail the practice at that time. So this would just be allowing us to go back to being able to do that. And people in Orchid feel very comfortable that they can certainly still attend our public meetings if they're within that 5 mile radius. We do not have a problem with access, we feel.
I would move approval of the local bill.
I'll second it. Any objection? You're good? I'm good? Okay. Roll call is pretty easy and simple votes here. Just for purpose of clarification to and that passed unanimously, but just for purpose of clarification to the general public, this is what we call a local bill. A local bill only affects the town of Orchid. It's run a little differently in Tallahassee than a standard piece of legislation. It first has to come to the delegation. We have to approve it, and we sometimes ask them to do things to get usually a resolution from their town board wanting it, and we'd like to see what their approval is there, and then we make a decision whether we do. We've been in long discussions with the town, and we didn't make that decision right here. Okay, we've had the meetings before, but it's for a local ordinance only, and then it goes up, and then in Tallahassee, it's run simply on the House side from that standpoint.
And we vote on it.
You vote on it after we do it, but you don't run through committees, correct? Okay, make sure I got that right. All right. Thank you very much.
I'll just hand this over.
Okay, next up is the Police Chiefs Association, Chief Keith Touchberry, Fellsmere Police Department, and also the president or past president of the Police Chiefs Association. I'm not sure when your tenure ended, or has it ended?
Immediate past president. Thank you,
Okay.
Representative. Also a member of our association's legislative committee. Good morning, Senator. Good morning, Representative. We are pleased to speak before you today. Thank you for your time that you're giving the Florida Police Chiefs Association. Of course, our hearts are heavy this week as we tend to, the loss of 2 law enforcement officers, Jason Chapman, Okeechobee City Police Department, not a line of duty death, last week of September, killed in an off-duty crash. His funeral is this Wednesday. And a Lake City policeman, Detective Parisi, died tragically as a result of a medical emergency during training last week. So our hearts are heavy, and we ask that you keep their families and their agencies in your prayers. Last year, we saw the passage of the Florida Police Chiefs Protection Act, and we appreciate the support the legislature gave us on that. And we want to continue our endeavor to professionalize what it means to be a police chief in the state of Florida. And we have had for years a new chief seminar and a future chief seminar that we have hosted throughout the state. And now we are looking to possibly get some legislation for making it mandatory that police chiefs attend the new chief seminar. This is not uncommon. There are other states that have mandatory training programs that newly appointed police chiefs have to go through. And we would like to take the lead in making sure that happens in the state of Florida. So again, we can continue to professionalize what it means to be a police chief in the state of Florida. Secondly, the FPCA, as a result of our last summer conference, we have initiated a work group to address the lack of mental health and wellness training in our basic recruit academies for not just law enforcement, but for corrections officers. And so our training center directors have taken the lead in coming up with a curriculum, and they have an ad hoc committee formed, and we anticipate some good changes with regards to that curriculum moving forward. From a legislative standpoint, we are looking at a couple of things. First and foremost, several years ago, the law passed where people can carry firearms while hunting and while going to fishing, and while going hunting, they can openly carry them. We have some unintended consequences with this good statute in that we do see some people out in Florida openly carrying assault weapons to crowded areas and crowded venues with a fishing pole in their hand and a GoPro camera on their vest or chest and looking to incite and incur whatever they do as a result of that. So we're looking at addressing that in some fashion. We're also looking to address again 790.08, taking possession of firearms as property, not evidence, in cases where people are arrested, and we do have some champions for that, but we are seeking bill sponsors. We also have an initiative with the FRS. Currently, if you are in the FRS system and you retire and you want to come back and teach as adjunct faculty at a police academy, if you don't want to join the FRS system, you still have to sit out a year. And we're denying ourselves the benefit of very good law enforcement instructors. It's a small thing. We already have a bill sponsor in the House. We're looking to amend that moving forward. We're also looking at the continued effort to look at our 911 telecommunicators and dispatchers. Their stress is real, and while the risks they take are not necessarily physical, they are certainly emotional. So looking to get some type of PTSD protection for them moving forward is certainly a priority for us, and we believe it's also a priority for the Florida Sheriff's Association. And finally, we're looking to make greater strides this year on the legalizing side-by-side vehicles. We had a huge champion in the Senate last year. Thank you, Senator Grall, for pushing that forward. We know that you had some obstacles. This was an initiative by the Waukesha Police Department, Chief Mike Porath. His community wants to see about legalizing side-by-side use at the city and county level through ordinance, similar to what we do with golf carts, and it would be up to the cities and counties to do that. So.
And you know who does not want to legalize side-by-sides? The side-by-side companies.
Yes, yeah.
So that's where the pushback came last year, but happy to continue talks with them and with you all on how we can try and make that happen.
Well, and I appreciate that, Senator. And I also appreciate your response when they said how fast those things can go on the road, and your response was, well, we have speed limits. And so law enforcement will certainly enforce those as well. So thank you both for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Ocean Research and Conservation Association. Dr. Dr. Edie Witter. Good morning.
Good morning.
Better known as Orca.
Good morning, Senator, Representative. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm here today with Orca's Chairman of the Board, Wayne Mills. First and foremost, we want to thank you for your efforts to protect the Indian River Lagoon, obviously a backbone of our community. In particular, I did want to follow Senator Grall's lead and give a shout out to Senator Mayfield for sponsoring our request for funding this past session. The support is made possible for Orca to maintain our currently deployed Kilroy Water Quality Network, which is the largest real-time monitoring network on the Indian River Lagoon. This is cutting-edge technology. Each one of our stations has 31 sensors on it for water quality, air quality, and meteorological parameters. It's providing critical information to policymakers. They're small enough, the Kilroys, that they can be placed in existing channels and canals and tributaries, and so they're monitoring most of the major inputs to the lagoon, giving us information over the long term about the changes in nutrient load, for example, coming in different parts of the lagoon, and in the short term, monitoring events like the fish kill that occurred in August up in the Malabar C-54 canal region. They're also being used in collaborative efforts. One of our collaborations with Kent State University I'm particularly excited about because they're working on satellite detection of toxic algae blooms and mapping seagrass meadows, and our Kilroys are providing the ground truth data for them to validate their algorithms. These are systems that are easy to install on existing dock pilings and channel markers. They're wireless, solar-powered, collect data 24 hours a day, and stream that back to home base where we make it available for free on our website at teamorca.org. Some of the current users of our real-time data include Brevard County Natural Resources, Martin County Natural Resources, Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, City of Stuart, St. Lucie County Environmental Resources, the Manatee Center in Fort Pierce, Florida Oceanographic Society, Florida Institute of Technology, and then it's also being used in several classrooms like Vero Beach High School and John Carroll High School. Orca has worked very hard establishing, growing, and validating the Kilroy Array. We're very proud of how many policymakers, NGOs, and community members are using our data. And as our number of users is growing, so is our network. With your support this year, we will be adding 3 additional moorings, bringing the total to 25, and plus 10 weather stations and 5 air quality stations. We thank you all that you do to support and restore the Indian River Lagoon, and we ask for your continuing support in the coming session.
Thank you. Next, we have the Alzheimer's Association by John Coutinho.
Good morning. I'd like to thank Senator Grall and Representative Brackett for allowing me the time to speak here. Believe it or not, Senator, this is the 5th time we've done this, and Representative Brackett, I know it's the first time, although we've had the pleasure of serving together, in the Vero Beach City Council. Our state resides at the epicenter of this crisis of Alzheimer's disease. We have the highest, we have the second highest number of individuals living with Alzheimer's in the country. In a recent Rush University study, 6 out of the 67 counties in Florida were ranked in the top 100 counties in the country for Alzheimer's prevalence. Just over 580,000 Floridians living with Alzheimer's disease, and in Indian River County alone, 6,600. And when you factor that 2 caregivers for each Alzheimer's patient, that is approximately the entire population of Sebastian is somehow affected with Alzheimer's disease in their households. I know many of you have been touched by the realities of the disease, and I'm proud to advocate alongside the Alzheimer's Association for resources to care for these individuals, families, and caregivers impacted by the disease. With your support, we are relentlessly optimistic as we propose 2024 legislative priorities. First, recently the FDA gave full approval to the first treatment that can slow the progression of Alzheimer's, but can only be used for those in early stages of Alzheimer's or with mild cognitive impairment. It is imperative we educate our community about the early warning signs of Alzheimer's and the importance of brain health. We need to raise awareness of what to look for, where to go to a doctor to be screened. We are also advocating for funding for public health awareness campaign that utilizes the multiple different media platforms and focuses on those from underserved communities. Second, the legislature recently created a Persons with Disabilities Registry for use by law enforcement. This was a great first step. We want to ensure that law enforcement has the resources they need to understand how best to work with individuals living with Alzheimer's and other dementia. Throughout their journey, 6 out of 10 individuals with dementia will wander at least once. That is why we are advocating for dementia training to be available for all law enforcement as a complement to last year's legislation. And finally, we ask the legislature to continue supporting the funding of programs that have a proven track record in research care and for services for those in need. That includes the Alzheimer's Association Brain Bus, the Ed and Ethel Moore Alzheimer's Disease Research Program, and respite through the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative and Community Care Act for the elderly through the Department of Elder Affairs. So on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association and over 500,000 Floridians living with disease, their families, and their caregivers, I appreciate this time to have presented to you, and we'll be up in Tallahassee February 13th and 14th for our annual advocacy phase. I've left a packet of the information with Sonny, so any questions, feel free to contact me. You know where I am. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Indian River Neighborhood Association. Mike Johansson, Executive Director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mike Johansson, Chairman of the Board of the Indian River Neighborhood Association, a group of some 2,000 members in the Indian River County who advocate for two things. One is the lagoon, and the other is land use and the quality of life. I'm going to echo what John Tikanich started out with, and you'll probably hear it several times here today. One size does not fit all. And as you go through your legislation process, if you would tuck that into the back of your mind and do something like 1379, which is a great piece of legislation for the lagoon, but it restricted it to areas that are in BMAPs. And that's appropriate because it's dealing with the water quality of the estuaries and the tidal areas of the state. So 1379 would not be appropriate to Okeechobee, would not be appropriate to the center of the state, but it is appropriate to the coasts. Just like 102, I'm going to suggest is not appropriate to the coasts. And the reason it's not is, and don't get me wrong, it's a great piece of legislation for workplace housing and affordable housing, but the unintended consequence that we worry about is the sewer and water infrastructure that results when you quadruple the population in a given area. And this bill has the potential to do that. So as you go through the process, we would like you to just keep in the back of your mind the fact that one size does not fit all. You've heard a couple of speakers already asking for leniency on 1379 and the 2030 date and the pushback, and we're going the other way. We say, stand fast, hold firm. I sound like Teddy Roosevelt, I know, but we're going to give you a possible solution. Quit rolling back the millage rates in the water management districts, okay? In St. John's alone, that would have put $7 million back into St. John's, who they then could have put into water to sewer. So I'm probably the only guy here who's going to give you a partial solution to a problem, and that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alliance for Safe Trains, Susan Meal.
Good morning. Yes, still good morning. Safe trains and the Bright Line system. We're all very aware that it's happening here and it's happening now. There are many, many moving parts to this project, but I want to focus on two today. One was brought to our attention by Congressman Posey just in the past 6 months when he sent a letter to the Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration, PHMSA, and said that this estuary that we so dearly love and that we can hear from today's talks is taking a major part of our tax base in order to restore and protect it. That this estuary is threatened when you put 110-mile-an-hour trains 32 times a day on the same tracks as hazardous material freight trains. We saw, unfortunately, in East Palestine, Ohio, what damages can be done to people and water estuaries. The river there still is having thousands of fish killed regularly. So, we just want people to be aware of this, and we want you to be talking to the people in Tallahassee who should be aware of it, because we need to protect our lagoon. There are parts of this train system, as we know, that go right along it, right near it, all up and down the region, and sometimes cross over some of its tributaries. The other thing is the common sense of safety. When we have 99 deaths in a very short period of years, going 79 miles an hour, one can only imagine what 110 miles an hour is going to do. Already, they averaged 2 deaths a month, and last week, they had 2 deaths. So it's a very frightening prospect. The legislature, I'm pleased to say, both Senator Grall, I think, and at the time Senator Mayfield, passed a study to be conducted, which it was years ago, and one of the things it said on there was, and recommended, that was ignored by everybody, was we need more fencing and pedestrian crossings and pedestrian bridges at hot spots. And this all needs to be studied. And I would suggest that we don't need to be paying for that, the corporation does. They picked this location because they already owned the right-of-way. And now they're trying to force high-speed rail into an old infrastructure that shouldn't be doing it, and they don't have the money to make it safe. So we're asking you today to contact the governor and remind him this will be on his watch, because he will have to face the families of the dead. And he will have to face all of the people in this room if our, God forbid, our lagoon is destroyed through a hazmat breach. There are 4 or 5 different very deadly chemicals being carried through our towns right now. So we are asking you to contact FDOT, who has ignored all of our communications and promised things that we've never seen. And we ask you to talk to the environmental people in Tallahassee as well. The trains need to be slowed down, I'm sorry to say, but that's what has to happen if they're going to be made safe, if they're going to run through our communities. They need to be slowed down, and the hazmat needs to be moved to the center of the state on the tracks that are there so that it's away from our lagoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Florida Voice for the Unborn, Catherine Booth.
Thank you, Representative Brackett and Senator Grall, for this opportunity. My name is Catherine Booth. I represent Florida Voice for the Unborn, which speaks on behalf of the 100,000 preborn human persons who are being, today as we speak, or will be this year, intentionally assassinated, to ask for personhood for preborn humans to be granted by the state legislative bodies under the Human Rights Declaration of the Florida Constitution. Abortion is a crime against humanity. Abortion is a violation of human rights. Abortion is a violation of women's rights because abortion allows the bondage of sex trafficking to continue, and more than half of persons aborted are women in the womb. The majority of Florida citizens are pro-life, which is why you sit in the seats of the Senate and House of Representatives. You have the power given to you by Florida citizens to abolish killing of preborn human children from conception, and I trust that you will. The 2022 U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe and gave states the green light to completely abolish abortion. The supermajority of Republicans in both the House and Senate, in line with the Republican Party platform, can legislatively define preborn human babies as persons and abolish abortion now, and here's why. Contrary to the pro-abortion narrative, no one is taking away reproductive rights which occur before conception and not after another distinct human person has been conceived. Further, striking down an assumed constitutional right to abortion does not put privacy or any other right of born persons in danger. The U.S. Supreme Court has acknowledged in its decisions that abortion is a unique act, which, unlike other acts, involves the termination of a life. It is the presence of the second life that has brought about laws prohibiting the taking of that life. Abolishing abortion has no constitutional bearing on actions that do not take a life. Furthermore, viability outside the mother is moot because a person is frozen in IVF at 6 days post-conception, yet remains alive and can be implanted decades later and be born. Preborn persons are depending upon you to use every legal tactic at hand to give them the equal right to life, the same as born persons, no matter the legal challenges from the abortion business industry. Since when do we, a moral people, allow the powerful to murder the weak? We ask for personhood for preborn humans to be granted by the state legislative bodies under the Human Rights Declaration of the Florida Constitution. The state of Florida must become a no-kill state. Now is your time to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Moms for Liberty of Indian River County. Jennifer Pippin.
Good morning. I first wanted to say thank you very much to Representative Brackett and Senator Grall for all of your hard work with the legislative session last time. Almost 20 education bills passed, and it not only helped us here in Indian River County, but across the state. So thank you very much for your time in doing that and time away from your families to keep children and families safe in our county and across the state. I did want to bring up just a couple of things. So we are not asking for a penny. We are always willing to do the groundwork, but we do need your help with a couple of things. So the first thing we're asking is to have Chapter 847 made stronger, that obscenity statute. It should be void, that Miller test, because in 1974, the Supreme Court case did not involve children or educational facilities like schools. This aspect of the obscenity law creates a loophole for allowing age-inappropriate material to be included in public school libraries based on literary value. And as we saw with House Bill 1069, just here in this county, prior to that law, we had 10 pornographic and sexually explicit content books permanently removed. Now with the implementation of House Bill 1069, we're up to 234 and growing here in Indian River County. So that's very important, and thank you again for doing that. But we do need to look at that Miller test, please, under 847. Also, in speaking about House Bill 1069, line 313, if we can have a revision of that, please. It currently says parents can challenge the material, and I know that people are supposed to look at the law in its entirety, and it does say taxpayers as well. But that specific line 313 to 314, if we can say parents and residents of the county or residents of the state can challenge material, not just parents. It was brought up in our last school board meeting and other school board meetings across the state that only parents are allowed to challenge these materials, and they went as far as to even talking about if people have had abortions, are they parents? If they've had miscarriages, are they parents? So I think that needs to come back and be revised so this way it has all taxpayers and residents of the county in its entirety. Also, we are looking at curriculum transparency. So federal law allows parents to review teacher manuals at their student's school, but current Florida law prevents the review of teacher manuals. At no fiscal impact to the state of Florida, when publishers provide their curriculum to be adopted by the state, they could provide a teacher's manual that has the test questions and answers redacted for the public to review prior to state purchases. This has been an issue because we see a lot of inappropriate material in the teacher manuals the ones that we have been able to acquire. So that would be, very important. Again, not having the answers available to parents, but to be able to see the works in its entirety. And also student data privacy. With the Florida's passage of the SOPI-PPA during the 2023 legislative session, it got the ball rolling in the right direction. However, we believe there is room for more improvement that will put Florida at the forefront of protecting student data collection. So again, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have the ARC of Indian River County, Heather Dales. Okay, we'll come back to them. Clean Water Coalition of Indian River County, Judy Orca. I knew I saw Judy here.
Good morning. Thank you for having this. So I moved to Indian River County in 1980. At that time, the lagoon water was clear. It had sandy bottoms. My children could dig clams with their toes and swim without risk of infection. We can have a healthy lagoon again, and it's critical for the economic well-being of our area. So we've made some steps in the right direction. Congratulations, the legislature is listening to the scientists. They passed H-Bill 1379 to stop the pollution at its source. Now we need to provide the money to implement that bill. Another good bill is the anchoring limitation area and the derelict vessel program. So these are great tools for us to help clean up the lagoon from all the transient vessels that pass through the area. Some of them become abandoned and then derelict, and they cause navigational hazards and lagoon pollution. So Indian River County is in the process of establishing an anchoring limitation area, and we look for your support. It would also be helpful to have increased marine patrol, to streamline the process to remove the derelict vessels, and to increase the funding for removal. Governor DeSantis took an important step when he established the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. The task force is made up of truly brilliant Florida scientists who are studying our problems and making good recommendations. Please implement them. One of the ones they've recently pointed out is the need to have stronger regulations about stormwater management and to monitor the runoff so that we are ensured that these projects are continuing to work. And there's still room for stronger regulations. Biosolids should never be used as fertilizer, no matter whether it's wet or if it's pelletized. The composition is still toxic to our waters. Reuse irrigation water nutrient limits need to be stronger. Currently, the limits allow more nitrogen and phosphorus to be spread on lawns than the grass can use, according to University of Florida studies. And on top of that, people add fertilizer. Early research done at Florida Institute of Technology is indicating that herbicides should not be sprayed directly in the water. Not because it's directly killing the seagrass, but because it contains huge amounts of phosphorus. The phosphorus then causes algae blooms. So maybe the state needs to think about mechanical removal of these aquatic plants. So the bottom line is we need a lot more money to restore the Indian River Lagoon. Really? Okay. Sorry.
Thank you, Judy. Pelican Island Audubon Society, Graham Cox.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If my voice disappears as I speak, it's the allergy season, and I'm crippled with allergies all this week. Pelican Island Audubon Society continues to advocate for conservation in Indian River County by working with local governments and citizens to make conservation a priority in balancing the environmental, economic, social forces at work in this county. We're going to talk about two things very briefly. One is we want you to fund no less than $600 million, the programs that I'm going to list in a second. In total, from the Land Acquisition Trust Fund, which continues from last year's successes for renewing Florida's commitment to conserve that state's natural heritage. We'd like to see $150 million allocated from the DEP State Lands Program, $300 million from the Florida Wildlife Corridor, $50 million for the Florida Community Trust, and last $100 million for the Rural and Family Lands Protection Program. Sounds like a lot of money, but we've done it before, and we can continue to use this fund, the land acquisition fund, while prices are as they are. And then we know they're going up, and they're going to keep going up, so we better pounce while we can on these things. The second thing I want to bring up is it seems that there is, every time the legislature is in session, they vote in favor of developers and not so much for residents. There's an undermining of home rule, home government, by leaving it to the state to tell us what to do. And we are opposed to that. Home rule is what we think is the best place where citizens can have the most impact for the issues that are most important to them. I thank you for the time, and I don't want to be embarrassed by a dinger going off here.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have the Family Care Council Area 15, Melody Hearn.
Good morning, and thank you all, Senator Grall and Brackett, Representative Brackett. I have been here as this posting as the governor appointee for over 10 years, and I am asking your help to continue Family Care Council's movement. I am a mom first, so I'm wearing my blue and yellow to represent our Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and as well as Advancing Access and Equality by the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which started yesterday. So both of them in conjunction. Here goes my plug. The Agency for Persons with Disability is the only institute that has been given the responsibility of managing the Medicaid waiver application and providing an adequate budget by algorithms in what's called the I-budget. There needs to be reform. Proposal from my perspective to remove APD wait list of over 22,000 plus individuals to waiver services. Now, let me explain. The APD system has now been given a pre-registry to wait lists, to services, 3 hoops to jump through. The only way to get on is through a crisis packet application and proof with documentation. To provide adequate services for health and safety through the state appropriations by pulling down over 50+% from the feds, and then backing it with our state appropriations. To submit the APD budget to the Florida Estimating Conference so they know, the state knows what we're going to need as our population ages. As a family member of these individuals, feel these human lives with unique abilities deserve adequate funding from Florida's Freedom Budget. Spending to bring life-sustaining care to our loved ones is a priority, as heard from Representative Daniel Perez's House Speaker Designate speech. Requested action. Number 1, continue support of the Family Care Council through Florida's 393-502 for board appointments to our 15 boards across the state. The mission of the Family Care Council is to educate what I'm doing today and empower individuals with developmental disabilities and their families, partnering with the Agency for Persons with Disability to bring quality services to individuals with dignity and choice. Thankful for the work of Senior Resource Association and the St. Lucie County Transit called ART, who are meeting the needs of individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities to access paratransportation throughout the entire Treasure Coast, not just the county line, like Transportation Disadvantage. And thank you, Treasure Coast Advantage Ride, for including Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, and Okeechobee in this transportation effort. 2, I personally assisted crisis cases reported to APD Southwest Office in Tallahassee of homeless and healthcare crises. I would love to have time with you and your staff to sit and share as a family perspective. I have outings that we are doing in the community to provide that empowerment and education. I will leave it with your representatives.
Thank you. Area Agency on Aging, Palm Beach and Treasure Coast chapter here. Dwight Chanette, CEO.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dwight Chanette. I serve as the CEO for the Area Agency on Aging of Palm Beach and the Treasure Coast. There are 11 designated area agencies on aging throughout Florida, and each operate under a contract with the Florida Department of Elder Affairs. We provide seniors, adults with disabilities, caregivers, and families with information referral and access to certain state and federal funded programs, including long-term care under Medicaid. Programs administered include cost-effective home and community-based services that help frail seniors remain at home and avoid costly nursing home care. The average annual in-home cost of our services is about $6,600, as compared to $93,000 if an individual is admitted to the nursing home. The Department of Elder Affairs has submitted a legislative budget request to increase funding. Today, I would like to highlight a couple of the priorities that are important to this community. First is increased funding for community care for the elderly of $10 million. This funding would serve approximately 1,500 of the most frail, most at-risk seniors on the waiting list who need assistance at home to avoid or delay the need for nursing home care. In Indian River, there are 584 individuals on this wait list. Second, increased funding for Alzheimer's respite care. We heard earlier of the impact of Alzheimer's from the Alzheimer's Association. We're asking for an increase of $6 million. This funding would serve 412 seniors that are waitlisted. Respite care provides families with support they need to continue their caregiver role. In Indian River, there are 61 individuals that are on the wait list. Finally, increased funding for home care for the elderly. This funding would serve 1,349 waitlisted seniors. This program serves seniors living at home with a caregiver, and the caregiver plays an important role in keeping that senior safe and at home. In Indian River, there are 643 individuals on the wait list. The services delivered to in each of these programs are competitively procured and delivered by local nonprofit organizations or governmental organizations. Here locally in Indian River County, Senior Resource Association provides these services in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next we have the Mental Health Association of Indian River County, Dr. Phil Cromer.
Good morning, and thanks for meeting with all of us today. I really do appreciate that. First and foremost, I'd like to thank both of you for your ongoing support of our appropriation funding. It's very important and critical to our community. With that money, we do a number of things. We provide a no-barrier approach to mental health services. We have a free screening program where individuals in the community can come to the MHA Monday through Friday without an appointment or a phone call and receive the mental health intervention that they need. We also provide a variety of other mental health services, including individual counseling, couples counseling. We have group therapy, support groups, and crisis intervention. In addition to all those services, we're a training site, so we provide education and training not only to bachelor's and master level students in the human service fields, but we have registered interns who are registered with the state and they are working towards licensure. I mentioned this because it's really critical. It helps us to expand our services, but because there's a lack of professionals in the community, if they don't stay with us, once they have their licensure, they typically stay within the community. So we take them from the schools, we train them up, we get them their licensure, and then they'll either, if we can retain them, we will, or they'll typically stay in the community. Another really important thing we do is we help to divert Baker Acts, which helps to reduce the burden on our local emergency room and other community partners. Baker Acts are very expensive. They help to clog up the emergency room, and then they wind up going over to the behavioral health center. A lot of times if they can come to us, we can stop that whole process by helping them get the help they need, essentially. And since we've received this funding, we've averted over $1 million in Baker Act costs. So we're a good investment. Also, we provide a number of educational opportunities, outreach educational talks and seminars. We collaborate with our local schools, government, courts, and of course other nonprofits, many of whom are in the audience today. I would like to just mention a couple of trends that is impacting on what we do at the MHA. We continue to see an increase in the severity and acuity of people's problems and symptoms. People are not only coming in earlier, but they're staying longer. So with that, thank you. We'll be in Tallahassee later this year, and thank you again.
Thank you. Youth Guidance, Dr. Phil Barnes.
Good morning, Senator, Representative, Legislative Aide, and District Secretary. My name is Phil Barnes, and I'm the Executive Director of Youth Guidance Mentoring Academy. Youth Guidance is a local 501c3 that has been serving the community of Indian River County for 50 years. We provide life-changing mentoring programs and healthy meals to approximately 200 low-income children and young adults each year, ages 5 to 24. All programs and meals we provide are free of charge. This past year, 100% of Youth Guidance students advanced to the next grade level on time or graduated high school. Furthermore, in 2021, we launched the only state-registered pre-apprenticeship program in Indian River County. Out of 25 graduates who have completed that program so far, 36% are working in the trade sector, which is the goal of that program. 16% are enrolled in post-secondary education at Treasure Coast Technical College, Indian River State College, or a four-year university. 24% are employed outside of the trade sector, and 24% are still in high school. Plans are currently underway to renovate our facility, which is the former library building located across from City Hall at 1028 20th Place. Youth Guidance purchased the 8,600 square foot building from the county in 2017. The facility is of historical significance and was constructed in 1961. In 1990, when the library moved to its current location, the building was remodeled to house administrative offices. And the current floor plan is a maze of cramped hallways and office spaces, and it simply is not conducive to the types of programs and services that we provide. Construction on our renovation is expected to begin in January 2024. At that time, we will occupy space in a local church to ensure that our programs and meals continue. The project is expected to last 8 to 12 months, and to this date, we have raised 90% of our fundraising goal. The total estimated cost is expected to be $1.5 million. Our renovated facility will house the following: a workshop for state-registered pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs in HVAC, welding, plumbing, carpentry, and electric, a teaching kitchen for culinary arts, a garden for gardening class, a multi-purpose room for life skills programs, financial literacy, sewing, and STEAM, and a library for homework help and tutoring. Youth Guidance respectfully requests a $45,000 appropriation from the state to cover the costs associated with the interior demolition of the building. The exterior will remain the same to preserve the historical significance. The new renovation will allow Youth Guidance to increase the number of children and young adults it serves each day from 50 to 75, a 50% increase. Furthermore, per year, we'll be able to increase the number of youth we serve from 200 to between 300 and 350. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have United Against Poverty, Matt Tanner, Executive Director.
morning, Senator Grall, Representative Brackett. Honored to be here with you guys this morning. You guys certainly, I think, know us pretty well. We're celebrating 20 years as an organization this year. We believe in our mission. We believe in what we do. We moved just over 3 years ago into our new UP Center here in the city of Vero Beach. And we have seen growth as a result of that. We served just over 10,000 families last year. We're projected to serve 15,000 families this year, which is encouraging. But when we look at reports like the United Way's most recent ALICE report, we know that roughly 50% of our county is living paycheck to paycheck. And we don't think that serving 15,000 families a year is enough. And we believe in our programs, our data backs that up, and so we want to take our show on the road. And we want to expand our efforts when we look at our data points in terms of the families that we're serving in Indian River County on an annual basis. As you start to go out into the communities and neighborhoods that are geographically further and further away from the center, we're seeing less and less participation. That could be for a variety of reasons: transportation, lack of awareness, and general cost associated. So we want to meet these individuals and families where they are. And so we are seeking support from both of you for a Senate appropriation request for what we're calling the UP Mobile Prosperity Unit. That will be an opportunity to hire 5 new staff members and a refrigerated vehicle, which will enable us here in Indian River County once a week to go out to these communities of need, set up shop, provide opportunities for families to work under our hand up, not a handout opportunity, to provide some low-cost grocery and household items at a minimal cost, but also while they're there, introduce them to our crisis stabilization services, lock arms with partners like the Health Department, Cleveland Clinic to provide free screenings, and also introduce individuals and families to our workforce program, Success Training Employment Program. We've had over 400 adults find better employment and better pay over the last 5 years, and we want to continue to expand that effort. Thank you both.
Thank you. Next, we have Communities Connected for Kids, Christina Kaiser.
Good morning. My name is Karen Toole. I'm a proud constituent, and I'm standing in for Ms. Kaiser this morning. Good morning, Senator Grall and Representative Brackett. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for supporting the risk pool DCF funding this year, which helped address our shortfall. Our agency in its 10-year history had never been in the red, and unfortunately this year we were. And that risk pool money enabled us to continue serving our children through the rest of the year. As you can imagine, child welfare is an expensive endeavor, but lately it has really been expensive. And as Dr. Cromer from Mental Health Association spoke, the acuity of the children that are coming into foster care is the highest that it's ever been. COVID did a number on our kids, and it is really starting to show. We received a 55% increase in teens this year in the last 12 months that have been sheltered into foster care, and that's 27 teens when we don't have 27 foster homes to place them in. So they're going into very expensive group settings, which has made our budget $1.5 million in the negative. We would ask just that you support ongoing risk pool funding and an additional support in CORE through the Department of Children and Families to allow us to continue to do our job. Thank you so much for all that you do for Indian River County, and you're such vocal advocates here, and we are so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, Stephanie Height.
Good morning, Senator Grall, Representative Brackett. I'm Stephanie Height. I'm the Economic Development and Intergovernmental Programs Director for the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. We're here to ask for your support on a couple issues, but we're also here to offer our support to you. We are 4 counties, 52 municipalities, 2.1 million residents that we represent. Our mission is to promote communication among all of our local governments, identify and resolve common regional scale problems, and then provide technical assistance and professional planning assistance as needed, and then when asked by our local governments. Our work programs include economic development, transportation planning. We train the first responders and hazmat, and we do land use transportation planning, and then we also do a lot of environmental assessment and cleanup through our brownfields assessment and revolving loan fund programs. An example of that will be your next speaker. We're working with the Marine Industry Association of the Treasure Coast. We just received a CPTA grant from the Florida Commerce to help them do some economic analysis and show the value of that industry to our region. What we are asking for your support on is the creation of a statewide coordinated planning and prioritization approach for water resource investment, modeled on the Florida Transportation Commission. The Water and Environmental Sustainability Committee of the Florida Association County had proposed modeling state water resource investment after the Florida Transportation Commission and the Florida Transportation Plan. In that way, we can create an approach for planning, prioritization, and a predictable multi-year capital construction program that will provide oversight to our protecting our water resources. We are also asking that you support increased flexibility on spending for affordable housing. We all know it's a crisis in our neighborhood, it's in our communities, and that also is an essential component to bringing jobs to our communities. So we just are urging that the governor and the legislation amend the statutes to allow for local governments to use up to 50% of SHIP funding for affordable rental units. And then we also ask that you support a resolution that we just recently passed supporting a joint project between the South Florida Water Management District and the St. Johns River Water Management District to restore the hydraulic and physical connections at the Central and South Florida Flood Protection Program. Both water management districts have done studies, and they say that this connection will reduce damaging freshwater stormwater discharges into the Indian River Lagoon. It will improve our surface water storage and floodwater routing, create positive groundwater recharge, and provide for related opportunities to decrease groundwater withdrawals. Again, thank you for your service.
Thank you. All right, Marine Industries Association of the Treasure Coast, Justin Baird.
Good morning. Thank you for the shout out, Stephanie. Let's talk after this. My name's Justin Beard. I'm Executive Director for the Marine Industries Association of the Treasure Coast. I want to say thank you for your time this morning and hearing out everybody's important issues that they're dealing with in the community. These legislative hearings are very helpful in allowing us to communicate important information to you. MITC is the only nonprofit marine trade organization dedicated to promoting, protecting, and growing marine-related business and recreational boating interests in Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, and Okeechobee counties. Established in 1974, MITC keeps the public informed on important marine-related issues across the Treasure Coast by promoting boater safety, supporting workforce readiness, advocating for clean waterways, navigable passageways, ocean access, and policy supporting maritime interests. We do a lot. As owner of the Stewart Boat Show, the region's largest and most successful boat show, MITC and its member businesses help drive an annual economic impact of more than $1.3 billion here on the Treasure Coast. MITC members range from family-run businesses and specialized tradespeople to yacht brokers and mega yacht shipyards, who collectively make the Treasure Coast an ideal destination for boaters. As we look forward to the 2024 legislative session, I would like for you to keep the marine industry in mind. The Treasure Coast is home to more than 43,000 registered voters. In Indian River County, it's more than 10,000. No doubt these folks live here because it's a beautiful place for boating. However, the marine industry is serious business. The $1.3 billion economic impact I mentioned is driven by approximately 800 businesses and nearly 9,000 workers, all of which who depend on the marine industry to make ends meet. MITC will continue advocating for state funding to support boating interest. You will likely hear more about the following issues during this year's session: boating safety, on-the-water law enforcement, derelict vessel removal, and boating infrastructure projects. MITC is a resource for you and your colleagues. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding the marine industry or projects that come up during this year's legislative session. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next would have been Hispanic Republicans of Indian River, but they were unable to make it this morning. So we're going to go to American History Live. Charlotte Frederick.
Good morning. I'm Charlotte Frederick with American History Live. I am the program manager. American History Live is a local 501c3 educational foundation. American History Live's mission is to educate, entertain, and help Florida students retain American history and civics. We provide educators with a supplemental tool to be used in the classroom to instruct students in Florida state academic standards in early American history and the foundations of our great American government. We bring history to life with our animated historical figures. Using Zoom or a like platform, Benjamin Franklin, Abigail Adams, Alexander Hamilton, Betsy Ross, and Prince Hall come into classrooms that are with lessons provided and created by a curriculum specialist with over 7 years classroom experience. For example, Prince Hall is the founder of the African Freemasons group. Born a slave, in Barbados, he was brought here by a slaveholder, and he gained his freedom and became a free African American that was a supporter of the American Revolution. We feel this character specifically can reach the new academic standards in African American history that was created in the 2023 academic standards. We are requesting funding to keep our program free to all Florida educators. We have reached over 600 students since 2021, including today, we reached 30 homeschooling students in Okeechobee. We have our scripts, lesson plans, and assessments are available to view upon request if anyone desires to see what our characters are sharing with students. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we have William Griffith, or Bill Griffin from the Indian River County Second Amendment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to ask you two things. Is there something we can do about these things that Washington are doing to go against our rights? Is there a way we can insulate ourselves from being Florida people to not have to deal with what they do? Is there something we can get legislatively done to do this? There's so much stuff coming from Washington that is going against our Constitution. How do we stop it?
I appreciate the question. Today, we're really here to listen to you all, and those are things that we do, I think, look at in Florida and push back when we can and use the tools that we have. But we aren't able to have that kind of dialogue today, but we appreciate knowing that that's important to our constituents. So if you could frame your comments to us in a way where you're telling us what's important to you and what you would like us to focus on, I appreciate that.
What I would like to do is have Florida somehow institute their own law as a sovereign state saying, we are not going to listen to this crap coming down from DC. Our constituents don't want it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was hoping maybe somebody, you could talk to the folks up there that you deal with, get this introduced, maybe just to insulate it. And the one other real big thing is child sex trafficking. This has got to stop. This is unacceptable, and Florida needs to really put the hammer down on these people that do this. We need to really do something about this. That's all I'm asking. I don't want any money from you. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, next we have, let's be a good neighbor to the lagoon. Cynthia Schwartz. Go to Florida Guardian ad litem, Heather Parker.
Good morning, Representative, Senator. Thank you so much for having me here today. I hope you are aware what the Guardian ad litem office does, but I will share with you briefly. We provide an attorney represented for each child in dependency care, a child welfare specialist, and hopefully a volunteer. In your area right here, you have about 187 volunteers that work tirelessly to help our children. There's one area that I wanted you to be aware of as you go in and fight for our county like you do every year. On May 31st of 2023, the Children's Bureau verified that our statewide Guardian ad litem office portion of the cost allocation for Title IV-E funding was approved. However, Florida's overall cost allocation plan is still unapproved. So we ask that while you are up there, you will look at this funding and work towards approving that or helping to approve that, because right now that leaves us about 1,600 children statewide who are not receiving the attorney representation that they so rightly deserve. Thank you again. We really appreciate what you do for us, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Republicans for Life, Indian River County, Paul Zono.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Right to Life for the Republicans for Life here in Indian River County. So there seems to be a battle right now that's going on about privacy rights, and whether it's a reasonable expectation of privacy exists is a matter that is determined on a case-by-case basis and is in fact fact-specific. Right now, we don't see any right to privacy in the commercial practice of medicine, let alone in performing abortion procedures that end life. Insulating abortionists as a special class from governmental regulation only results in perverse results that work against the public interest. It wrongly blocks a duly enacted law and compromises the state ability to regulate the integrity of medicine. State of Florida witnessed an unprecedented killing of over 82,000 lives for this current year, and that's reported by the American Healthcare Association. Some of this increase over 2021 is due in part because of stricter abortion laws in Georgia and Alabama. The proposed amendments supported by Planned Parenthood and the ACLU ballot, which it could nullify all current laws protecting the unborn in Florida. It's on an expedited path right now and is currently on the desk of the Attorney General. It's clearly an attempt to circumvent the will of the people of Florida by their vote of elected representatives to pass any laws that protect the unborn. We're respectfully asking legislation to be introduced and sponsored by you, our elected representatives, to grant personhood to preborn human beings that would result in the Florida Constitutional Bill of Rights, Article 1, protecting the right of life from conception for every human being at every state of development. I'll close with this. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the coveted document that we all hold in high esteem, the U.S. Constitution, the authors recognized human frailties when they put this together, and their risk of self-interest would compromise our inherent rights. The inalienable right to life proclaimed by Jefferson and the equal protection of the laws secured to us by the 14th Amendment are not government grants of benevolence. They are inherent properties of each human being, whether unborn or aged or unable to care for himself. The inalienable life proclaimed by Thomas Jefferson and the equal protection of the law is secured to us by the 14th Amendment of the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that brings us to the constituent part of our meeting. I'm sorry. Thank you. We have one more. Parental Rights of Florida, Hattie Sullivan, State Coordinator. My apologies. I almost left you out.
Thank you. Thank you both for your public service to our community and to your families and to your staff. We really appreciate it. As you know, Senator Grall, you led the effort for 3 years in the Parents' Bill of Rights, and when that finally passed, it passed at a very strategic time in our state and our nation, and awakened a lot of parents throughout our state and our nation to government entities and organizations overstepping their boundaries with common sense and understanding that parental rights are a fundamental right. We want to thank you for your continued effort. I have provided a packet for you to take a look at. It has a timeline of the history of the parental rights movement here in our state, beginning in 2011, 2012, and regarding to the parental rights, the Parents' Bill of Rights, the parental rights in education law, and then most recently, the 1069 of that. And so we are so grateful for all the hard work that you've done in regard to parental rights for families and for children. A lot has been accomplished, but I have to say that there is much more to do, because unfortunately, lawbreakers will continue to break the law no matter what kind of laws we get passed. And we've been seeing many ways of overreach on behalf of families and parents of organizations continuing to overstep their boundaries and keeping and withholding information from parents. So I'd like you to take a look at the packet, and I've proposed 3 ways that we can continue to strengthen parental rights here in Florida that are very important in the areas of medical, mental health, and DCF. So you can take a look at those proposals, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you at your convenience if you would like. So also, this timeline is very important as we continue to move forward. We want to continue to lengthen that timeline and keep Florida leading on behalf of parents throughout the state and the nation. Lastly, one of the most important lines of that Parents' Bill of Rights was very important to me because it codified the word fundamental. It codified for the first time in Florida history that the parental rights are a fundamental right, and that government entities cannot overstep their boundaries in regards to parental rights. So I'd like to see that happen and continue to happen. So 2 last things I'd like to discuss is that in organizations that are statewide organizations, not-for-profit organizations that are receiving state funding or county funding, the application process should include that they will abide by these parental rights. We had one of the organizations in here today where the executive director, anybody who's working with minors, especially organizations, the executive director of that organization actually was recently in the paper in speaking against the Parents' Bill of Rights. One last thing is the Fairness in Women's Sports Act that made it illegal for biological males to play in women's sports. I just found out this week that that does not cover sports leagues here in our state. And a young lady, a friend of mine, her daughter was literally, her teammates on her team were punched by a goalie who is a biological male. So we do have boys continuing to play in girls' sports here in our state. So if we can have that, other states that have passed the Fairness Act are not allowing the leagues to have biological males play in these women's sports for these children. So I'd like to have that looked into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that concludes that part of our agenda. Now we'll go to constituents. The first one up is William Gallup.
Senator Grall and Robbie, thank you very much for this time. I'm approaching up here because I'm a physician and I'm concerned about the health in our county. I'm also a patriot, and I know our state and our country were founded on some basic human rights and individual American values, and those concern individual freedom, self-reliance, hard work, opportunity, competition, and the American dream, what all those bring to a head. This allowed the U.S. to bring millions of people and assimilate them in our country from different cultures all over the world, and we created a unique American identity. And I feel that this identity is being undermined from within our own country. It's not coming straight from China and they're trying to take over our country and things like that. It's being undermined by people who've been put in positions of power within our own Department of Health, Education Department, and other county things. They're pushing things just like they are where I work, critical race theory upon us, making things mandatory that you have to take this critical race theory test. They're pushing DIE. I say DIE because it is not DEI. If you believe DEI, you will DIE, you will die. So they're pushing diversity, equity, and inclusivity underneath all of this. And they're undermining all these values that we have and use to make our country, our county, our cities here in Florida strong. I have a Department of Health, their vision right here. Doesn't seem like I talked for 5 minutes, but it might have been quick. You know, they push in as racism as a public health threat, which is, I don't know where that is, it comes from, but I know it comes from, from the World Health Organization, which they quote in here. They also quote the American Medical Association in here. We have a handout, or I have a handout I can give you all later, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Lamar, and I'm going to ask you to pronounce your last name because I'm going to get it wrong, Lamar, and I apologize for that.
Notre Giacomo, thank you. I would ask before you start the timer for the same 3 minutes that the other speakers have received today.
Constituents have 1 minute, but we're pretty lenient, so I'll let you go over like we let this gentleman.
Okay,
speak
1 minute
before.
is hardly enough to address any issue. So I'm going to make 3 points. This is about medical freedom. The medical experts, including Barney Graham and Jason McClellan, the inventors of the S2 spike proteins produced by the COVID mRNA vaccines, not only do not work, they are causing death and serious health problems. A brief statement here by Graham and McClellan saying that the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines were purposely designed not to protect against SARS-CoV-2 or variants, and they cause disease. The scientific evidence authored by the inventors of the spike proteins confirms that the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine does not produce antibodies to SARS-CoV-2 and are resistant to the antibodies for SARS-CoV-2, and therefore it is scientifically and clinically impossible for Pfizer's FDA-approved mRNA vaccines to provide any protection against SARS-CoV-2 infection or any coronavirus, including variants. I will provide you this document. Number 2, it is especially dangerous to elderly and pregnant women. And I sent you that information by email this morning with the stats. That 46% of pregnant women had complications after vaccination, of which 75 were deemed serious, 49 non-serious. It also includes abortions, fetal death, fetal growth restriction, prematurity, premature rupture of membranes, neonatal death, and complications in 17 out of 116 newborns. And the patient bill of rights is not being respected. Over 80% of patients put on ventilators, many of who did not want to be put on ventilators, died. And Dr. Bartlett and Dr. Zelenko had nearly 100% success rate in treating their patients. Let patients use the medicine of their choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, constituent D, Lavandra and Melissa Burdick were not able to make it today, so we'll go to the cards. And first up, we have Abigail Sullivan. And while she is walking to the podium, I just want to say that Abigail is a first-time voter this year. And I want to welcome you to the process and thank you for being involved at such an early age. We need more of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Good morning, Senator Grall and Representative Brackett. My name is Abigail Sullivan, and as a newly eligible voter, I wanted to thank you both for all the work that you are both doing. You both are steadfast in your resolve to help serve the citizens of this district, and all the wonderful things you both are doing are going to make a lasting impact on the citizens. So thank you for standing for truth and for being willing to fight for and protect the citizens' rights in Florida. Whether the topics are about the lagoon, the life for the unborn, parental rights, or any others, you are listening and you want what is best for your constituents. We're grateful for your service. Thank you both. God bless you.
Thank you. Catherine Booth. You spoke okay earlier? Okay. Troy Darling.
Thank you for your time. I am with the Convention of States Organization, and I apologize. I'm going to have to make this far briefer than I'd anticipated. I'd submitted the application to speak for the nonprofit section. Something happened, so I got pushed into this time. So please forgive. I'm going to try and push real quick. I guess the most important thing I'd like to ask today is if you've been made aware of some of the pushes for rescission of the Florida application for a Convention of States, please reject that on its face. Some of the arguments that I'm hearing are that we just need to vote better as Americans, and we need to hope that our representatives take their oath more seriously. I spoke to you guys last year. The reality is you, as the state legislature, hold the chain of the federal government via Article 5 of the Constitution. This is the very mechanism that our founders intended if our government got out of control and became tyrannical and started stepping on both state and individual rights, that we could reset this process. I am now hearing from both sides of the extreme, left and right, that we need to cancel it and start over and go somewhere else. The only answer here, while keeping our country, is to utilize the very process that our founders gave us. And again, my time's up. I apologize for the brevity. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia Keenan.
Good morning, Senator Grall and Representative Brackett. Thank you for being here today. I am currently serving as the interim executive director for McKee Botanical Garden, and I want to thank you for your support and can ask you for your continued advocacy for funding through the Division of Arts and Culture and historical grants. Through that support, we are able to provide horticulturists the opportunity to explore nature, over 10,000 native plants, and to bring in renowned exhibits to our area, and as well as provide education and programs for exploration for children and adults. And I just want to say thank you for that. And we now serve over 120,000 visitors per year. And to protect this landmark in our state is very important, not only to Vero Beach, but to the state. So thank you for your support today.
Thank you. Next we have Harry, is it Aller?
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming today. I am a part of a group of election integrity workers, and we've come up with a few things we'd like you to address. First is citizenship. In talking to supervisors of elections around the state, we find that very few check citizenship. They say it's just a Secretary of State function. Cord Bird says citizenship checking is difficult. He doesn't do it. So we need something to be done, some standardization. Vote by mail is another issue. The Carter-Baker Commission has found that vote by mail is prone to fraud. There are issues with chain of custody and, most importantly, signature verification. I've looked into signature verification myself. It is very subjective. We need vote by mail to go back to what it used to be, where it was very limited, people that could not get to voting polls and military. And there are certainly questions about voting roll maintenance. 500,000 people last year had issues with their addresses, so that we need some standardization, some cleanup of voting rolls. Thank you.
Thank you. The last card does not have a person's name, but it does say Gulfstream Goodwill.
Hi, good morning. My name is Erin Kozlowski. I'm the Chief Development Officer for Gulfstream Goodwill.
When most people think about Goodwill, they think about the retail stores. However, what most people do not know is the story behind those stores. Gulfstream Goodwill is the largest health and human service organization in the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. Every year, we help over 7,500 people towards a pathway out of poverty. Our services include 4 homeless shelters, 200 units of supportive housing, a charter school, and 2 adult day programs with over 250 individuals with intellectual disabilities. Goodwill provides placement in jobs and housing to the people coming through our shelters and those who have ID. Our plan for the 2024-25 fiscal year is to expand our services in Palm Beach County. We will then duplicate our efforts up the Treasure Coast from Martin up to Indian River County to have ID services and affordable housing in every county, which we used to have before the pandemic and we were forced to scale back. We have 2 requests. The first is for $500,000 in employment through APD appropriations. This funding will serve 250 people with ID. Our second request is for $2 million in housing through DEO appropriations. This funding will provide housing for 54 people from our Glades homeless shelter. Affordable housing means that our workforce will no longer be the victims of predatory landlords. Our workforce in Indian River includes 3 locations and 50 employees in Sebastian, Oslo, and Vero. Goodwill employment impacts more than our workforce. It means that the Indian River community has 50 less people who need taxpayer dollars. That equates to approximately $13,000 per person per year, or $600,000 in total every year. Please help us to expand our services over the next 5 years as we focus on 1 county per year and scale to meet the needs of the most vulnerable populations. Thank you for your time and your consideration of support.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes the constituent part of our meeting. At this point in time, we need to decide about next year's process. And I will pass the gavel to my good friend, Senator Grall, to be the chair next year.
We're not taking a vote anymore on these things, right?
Well, I'm not sure we're doing a tie.
So happy to accept the challenge and appreciate you as a colleague and having you in Tallahassee. So grateful to have you in this space and representing this area the way that you have, and enjoy this partnership. And so whatever I can do, if that means serving as chair for next legislative session, I'm happy to do so. And with that, I would nominate you to serve as vice chair.
Okay, and I thank you for that, and I accept that. And again, if I appreciate all the help that you've given me throughout this whole process. My first legislative session was a whirlwind. I had a lot of good help and a lot of good support from folks like Senator Grall and the leadership of Florida, and so I really appreciate that all they do. I can assure you that we go up there, and I'm sure you heard it before, it's long days, it's 10-hour days if you do it the right way, and we try to do it the right way all the time, put the most time in possible. So it is a commitment to go up there and do it, and I appreciate the support, what we can do, and I enjoy working with you here. It's been you shortened the learning curve drastically for me, so thank you. With that, we will adjourn.